Welcome everyone. Today I'm Jack Driscoll, and today I have Lauren Bradley with me, who actually heads the Citizens of Bethel Park and lives in London. So that's a good start right there, because where do all those pieces fit? Which is why we invited Lauren together, so we could all talk and get a little history on what happened with the Citizens of Bethel Park with the recent flooding that we've had, but going way back, just where this all began with you. So welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Jack.
Can you tell us first off a little bit about, before the Citizens of Bethel Park even existed, how this all started with you?
So I am from Bethel Park. I grew up on Lytle Road. Actually, I grew up on Library Road before that, and then I grew up on Lytle Road, just down the street from the municipality building, and graduated from here in 2000. At the time, my name was Lauren Rumpf, and then, as most people from Pittsburgh or from Bethel are, we're very proud of where I'm from and love it here, and it's the best being close to the South Park, and you have the mall, you just have everything. My whole family's here. And so off and on as an adult, I lived here back from college, after getting married, in between different places that I lived in, and it was always my place to come back to, because that was always home.
Okay.
And then I met a boy on MySpace who happened to live in London, and I thought, oh great, I'm going to have a pen pal. And now we've been married 10 years, and I moved to London for a while, and we decided to try and move back to the States for a bit, and didn't quite work out, so we were moving back, and of course landed at my parents' house while we were in between and getting everything sorted. And my father owns a business and had was looking to hire some people, and I was trying to help him, trying to see what resources were out there. That was, I think that was 2015. Okay. I think it was about 3 years ago. Okay. And I had lived in a big community in New Jersey, and they had tons of local Facebook groups that were really supportive and really helpful. So there's one for our town called Citizens of Bloomfield. Okay. So the name was an instant inspiration. Yeah, exactly. There were local ones nearby. There was tons of like selling groups and stuff. So I thought, oh, that's a really good place that I remember seeing people post about their businesses, post about their needs, and asking for neighbor to neighbor help and local recommendations. And so I went looking for it, and I didn't quite find it. Now I know there are mom groups, but I didn't know that at the time, and that has this particular niche, is obviously moms. And I found the municipality page, which you can comment on but not post, because it's their own group, and I get that, or their own page. And so I thought, I'll just start one, and I didn't think anything of it. And from the very beginning, I asked Sydney Litzenberger if she would help me, because she, if you want to know who is the person to talk to about anything, she has been here, she grew up here. Her father was the mayor. Her father-in-law was the chief of police, I believe. Okay. And so she knows everybody. And I knew her because I was friends with her daughter. And I said, can you help me with this? Maybe we share this with some people in Bethel and see if we can get a good group talking to each other. And and that's how it started, about, I think it was 2015, But it's really the members of the group that build all the information now, and I just sit back, and especially since I don't live here now, I have to, it's an entity that's of the people, so whatever they share is as good or as bad as that group's going to be that day. If there's news, if there's big events, and our engagement, I can see what Facebook tells us, how many members are of the group and how many people are constantly engaging. And it is a very high number. I think right before the flood, we had like 3,000 people, and 2,800 were constantly engaging with the site. Really?
That's a lot.
That is very high for a Facebook group, as I found out. And there's not many members that sit back. Like, they're either commenting or liking or something. They're participating in some way. And then the flood happened. And it all kind of blossomed.
So before the flood happened, you're in London, and you're still running this Citizens of Bethel Park group. So my first question is, why after that?
So we were in Bethel Park when I started it, but I knew we were leaving. We were transitioning into leaving. But and like I said, Sid was helping me with the group. And it was just because it was like a little project. It was a little labor of love.
Help your dad out before you left, right?
And it was a way to stay connected. My sister lives here. My parents live here. My brother just bought a house here. Okay. My friends, all their parents are here. Like, this is my home. And so they would always laugh because I'd be like, oh, you know, the tea's down. And my mom was like, how do you know the tea's down? Because you're in London and you know more about it, because I also wake up 5 hours earlier with the time difference. I'm in the future, so I will see stuff and text her before she goes to work in the morning. But it's a way for me to feel like, even though I can't live here, and my husband loves it here. We love Pittsburgh. We love Bethel Park. Just the nature of what we do. It's easier to be in London than here. But this is like, he calls it his spiritual home.
Ah, nice.
He does. He loves coming here. In fact, he has to convince me every year to really book it, because I'm always thinking we have so much to do. We'll get to it. And he's like, no, we it's time to recharge.
Nice. Good. We
need to go. And so it just was, and to be honest, it was just a little thing. It had a couple hundred people, and they were talking to each other. And we've some really active members that, like, if you're a member of the group, you recognize their names, and they're really helpful. And it's nice to get to know those people. And it just was kind of a project, and to see how it would go. And now I'm more connected to Bethel Park than when I lived here.
Really?
Yeah, and it's I've met so many people since the flood that I've been talking to online, including yourself.
Well, that's true. You meet a lot of people through.
I have a lot of friends here now that I never met until 24 hours ago, really.
Let's say June 19th, 2018, versus June 20th, 2018. Fill us in on the birth of this expansion now because of that flood, and what happened, what you found, all the catastrophic communication that was going on, and the grasping for help, and share some of that with us.
The flood was a real shakeup for everybody, and so I was just going about my business. We just moved into a new house, which we went from a pre-furnished flat that we rented with furniture in it to an empty house. So I'm scrambling trying to get furniture into our new house, and I'm using Facebook groups. We bought all the stuff secondhand. Like I'm on it now. I'm on Facebook, all over it. And so I remember, I check in all the time. Little things come up on my phone constantly. It's constantly dying. I'm getting every notification from everyone. And I just kind of saw this thing about flash flooding. And I remember looking at my husband and saying, oh, there's a flood. Something's going on. And then, oh, there's a flood. Something's really happening. And then seeing Lizzie's barn coming up. And you could read her post. She posted, was the first person to really say I'm watching my livelihood wash away. I'm scared for my horses. We're getting really hit. And the response of the people going, how can we help? Where are you? Was amazing. So at first we were just watching. And
that's just people-to-people communication there on Facebook, right?
Yes. So there's actually a few of us. There's so now after a couple of years, there's Sid. There is Brian, who's actually the son-in-law of Jack Allen, the mayor, and my childhood friend, Blair Koch, who grew up on Lytle with me, and just some really nice people that are just helping keep the peace in the background on the group. And so we all were kind of like talking, going, oh. And Sid and I never sleep. I have a young baby. Her mind doesn't turn off. And so I was up in the night because it started happening late here. So I'm 5 hours ahead, and I'm seeing it happen. And then I don't even know how it happened. We just started saying, someone was going, how do I help? And started tagging them in different posts and directing people. 24 hours of no sleep later, going to work and coming back and not being able to concentrate on work, and not being able to be here, and just seeing all these people starting to cry for help as the dawn rose, and the anti-Tauruses came out, and other people reporting about their neighbors who were maybe elderly they were worried about, and they knew they were hit, but going, don't help me, help my neighbor. We had a few of those on Greenwald a woman named Mandy and her husband were wonderful and so worried about their neighbors, never telling us about her own home, which was probably hit the worst on that road. Just really selflessness coming out, and people that would never ask for help, saying, I don't know what to do here. And how do you turn away from that? How do you not help that? And all I can do is help organize that. And we got very organized very fast, very, very fast. And then we hooked up with the fund.
Yeah, you did, because only probably 2 days later, you know, we started seeing, I mean, my daughter actually started seeing, hey, we need to help. We need to help. And I said, what? And she said, the Citizens of Bethel Park Facebook group, there are a lot of people out there who need help that are trying to connect to each other. So you were really, I think, the only resource for communication and networking that actually facilitated people being able to help other people, or even knowing help was needed.
That is apparent. That is what came out of it. So we actually had a meeting the other night with the municipality of all the different heads of the group. So Tim Mowry with the head of the council, John Kuchma, who was emergency manager, Sean Arbaugh, like everyone was there that I was talking to. Suddenly I'm talking to the mayor, and I'm talking to John, the emergency manager, and I'm in London. And I scared everybody. Every person I called was getting an Ohio number or a London number and going, who is this person calling me from a Facebook group? Is this legit? There were so many, I think people started to figure it out. But they said they were so prepared. They had their checklist. They had their FEMA checklist. They had their protocols. They were following what they could, and especially the fire department and the police. I found out they saw the weather coming, which was really interesting to hear. They saw the weather coming. They manned up. They got extra dispatchers on.
Really?
I found out that we have in this station we have a dedicated our own dedicated dispatch, so it doesn't go to central dispatch. If you call the 833-2000 number, it comes into the municipality building, and they have dispatchers. They got us extra dispatchers on, they had extra lieutenants in.
Wow.
They were ready. And I also found out from John Peters, who was also part of the emergency management and helping with assessments. And he's a lovely, lovely guy. And and they're all volunteers. They're all volunteers, which is crazy. Right? The emergency managers are volunteers. All the fire department are volunteers. It's incredible. And how ready they are, and how prepared they are, and how they just were kicking in. He said he knows areas of town where he looks for the water, and if it's hit this high by this time, and then it hits the other end, he knows how fast the water's coming in. And it was even, obviously it was surprising to them. They knew water was coming. They didn't, I think nobody quite knew what was going to happen.
Okay.
And so, but they were so prepared, but the humanitarian side of it, you know, they were looking at infrastructure, especially for FEMA. The money has to count up. We have to hit a certain level before they'll come in and give money and give relief. And so they were doing what they knew to do. And there were all these people going, okay, I reported it to municipality, but you know, no one's coming down the road in a fire truck handing me a basket of towels and cleaner. Like, what do we do? And they did their part. They got the Salvation Army, and they were incredible. And townships around us have come to us and said, we did not have this support. We were looking for something like this. And they actually came to the Citizens of Bethel Park asking for help because they weren't getting the outside. They didn't know who to call. Right. And we just found became the humanitarian effort, which is great. It really was neighbors helping neighbors. And
it really was. I mean, it grew fast.
It was so fast. And there would be times where only a few people actually said, I need help. And they were hit hard. Like, they were hit to the roof, the ceiling of their basements, people with 5-month-old babies. You know, I tell people, you know, if you have a 5-month-old baby and you lose your washing machine, what an inconvenience and how hard that is. Right. Imagine losing your washing machine, your power, your home is unlivable, and you've lost everything. And one of the stories I heard last night was that one of the homes had a baby, had a pet rabbit, that didn't quite make it through the flood, and the fire department was doing CPR on the rabbit. Now, how amazing are those people?
Yeah.
And these are people that live in this community that were flooded themselves. Yeah. So they were going home, taking care of business, then coming out and helping everybody else out. But there would be people that would post, "My neighbor needs help," and someone would already be reporting, "I'm here." We didn't even direct anybody there yet. There were people there. There were 3 people there. By the time I called, they're like, "Oh, there's already people here."
Yeah.
So I was calling. I started calling people. I started triaging. Oh, we started getting very organized. So Sid started working on volunteers. I started working on contacting the names that came through, finding out how bad it was, asking the same questions over and over again. Do you have a washer and dryer? Are they usable? Right. Do you have power? Do you have is your hot water tank working? Do you have a place to go? Do you have family support that can help you clean up? Did you lose a lot of furniture? Because we all have finished basements here. And then reporting that on, and then a little army would go out. Sid and Amy Morrow would help find volunteers. Then Courtney Smith, who is a godsend, and I graduated with, and I'm so glad that I reconnected with her, was physically walking down the streets looking for houses that looked like they must have been hit, like water down up against their garage doors, and just knocking on their door and saying, "How are you doing? What's going on?" And then people wanted to donate money. And we didn't know where to direct them. And Sid knew of Becky and the Black Hawk Relief Fund. And so I reached out to Becky and said, "We've got some people looking for places to donate." And people actually point blank refused. We said, "How about you give it to the Red Cross?" And they said, "We want to give it to a family. We want to know where this money is going." And so we could say, okay, well, if you see, people are putting their addresses, they were putting up their addresses, their phone numbers. It was an emergency. They didn't mind sharing that information. I said, well, here they are. But we wanted somewhere a little bit more accountable for the money. And so hooked up with Becky, who also was on the ground, was also, and the great idea of getting the gift cards out to people right away, because you can bring the money in, but you have to see who's highly affected. So they were looking at like FEMA level damage to give a significant donation to. But before that, just getting people a gift card to get a dehumidifier. Yeah. And then Sid had said, we need to feed these people, because when you're desperate, at least if you have food in your belly.
Good for her.
It doesn't feel so, it was amazing. Right. And then we had Belinda and Lorraine jump in on that. And we had David Spinnenweber and Chris Van Dyke. Chris Van Dyke just posted and said, I want to know plumbers, electricians, let's get a team together. And everybody put their whole lives on hold. And that wasn't me. I created this, I spent 20 minutes creating a platform, and I've dedicated 3 years to just making sure it's moving in the right direction. And but it's really the people that contribute to it and keep tabs and help each other out in it. And we, there were sometimes people would say, "Oh, I need help," but it was mostly recommendations. But now I think, especially in the future, there's a movement that kind of happened where I hope people know that they can come to us or message one of the admins, and if they're in trouble or know someone that's in trouble, that we can help. Now we know so many people, so many agencies, so many resources that can help neighbors in need, whether it's an elderly person whose family lives far away. Something like that. So I think that's just the beautiful thing that's come out of it, all these people that have stepped up, and now we know who to call.
It exploded fast. I mean, there's no question what's happened in just the last month.
It really, we got, before that time, we got some really good growth this last year, and that's why we brought on some extra admins, other than just Sid and I up all night, watching when the school board re-elections are happening, and we're terrified to see like what's gonna come up, or because we just want everyone to be neighborly. Fred Rogers is our patron saint of our little group, is what we feel. If kindness goes so far, and you may not agree with someone, but show them respect and be kind, and so that's what we just try and hope everyone keeps on that level with. And it was just ticking along, and it really started to explode this year. And then the flood happened, and we were getting maybe 50 members a week, and we have had 1,000 new members in a month. there was enough people from South Park in the group that said, we wish there was a group like this. Does anyone know of a group like this? And I finally reached out to somebody and said, well, if you create it, or if you will be the admin, I will help you create it.
That's nice.
And so now they have nearly 100 members. Wow. Of the neighbors in South Park Township is that group.
Good.
But they've already taken it. I just sit in the back if they ever need to ask questions or whatever, but I help them set it up.
That's real nice.
And it's taken off, and I'm really glad about that. But it's just kind of taken on this life of its own in the last month. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's no question about that. What do you see as far as the citizens of Bethel Park now, where it stands now, how it's expanded so quickly? Where do you see it, and what's the vision for the citizens of Bethel Park now going forward?
So, as I said, the original purpose of the group was really just to get my dad some new workers, but to get recommendations for people that there's the Angie's List or whatever. But these are our neighbors. These are the people that live next door to you. They're going to know, and you want to use local businesses, don't you? You want to patron local businesses, right. And so that's what it kind of started as, and then it started to blossom into getting into the political side of Bethel Park and the school board, and if there's a snow day, and just an informative place. Any news on Bethel was coming into it. And I really just wanted neighbors to get to know each other that wouldn't otherwise know each other, and know about resources they wouldn't otherwise know about. So one of the things I want to do is I've just pulled together with the other admins like a list of all the people don't know that the robocalls, the Swift calls that went out. Yeah. I'm only just learning that those go out to anyone that has a landline that is not a private number. That was going out from the mayor during this. But if you have a private number, only have a cell phone, you have to sign up for it. Okay. And so there's a lot of different ways, especially for people that aren't on Facebook, to spread information, and that's what we want. We are limited to Facebook because that's where the group is, and it's a great tool because so many people have Facebook on their phones. But we do have a high elderly population. Facebook also is not known for being, they're known for collecting people's data, and some people don't like how, how much they know about your life and what information they're collecting. So, but we've found it's the best tool right now for us to communicate to a wide group of people. And so that still stands. That initial understanding of why I created the group, of just connecting people, helping them get the best deals and patronizing the best businesses and everything, that's still there. But now with this flood, so many people stepped up. Like it was so uplifting every day to go in there during the flood. I know a terrible thing happened, but I think it brought so many people together. It got rid of so much wood paneling in Bethel Park, which I'm so glad about. But it was a mass exodus of all the wood paneling. But it really
but even that Facebook group that you had actually began assembling like contractor teams and armies and things like that out of thin air.
Yes,
everything got assembled so quickly.
It was
that
amazing.
Facebook communication.
Exactly, and I'm so glad that it was there. I'm so glad that that's where people went. Like that was their first thought, was where to go.
It's the only place to go.
Exactly, and I was talking to someone from the fire department saying we were learning about houses that were coming up on the group. Now that was obviously not the intention of the group, but I'm so glad it was there, because what if it wasn't there? Where would they have gone? Where would they have been able to post? They probably would have gone to the website, but where would everyone have been able to see a more global picture of what was happening and who was being affected? That was a real-time example of what was happening in their community, and people were called to help. People felt that pull. I have to do something more, like Krissa and your daughter saying, Dad, no, really look at what's happening. And because you couldn't, once you saw it, you couldn't turn away from it. And so in the future, I hope that still stands. I hope people still know. I invite anyone that's not on the group to please join the group. You don't even have to participate. You can even mute the group and only check in when you want to. It doesn't have to come into your feed. But if you're a organization, if you're a baseball team and you need to raise money, if you have a bake sale, if you are going on a mission somewhere, And everyone's has to make their own judgment about who they want to donate to or whatever. Right. But we want to be a place that they can come to and post about, or tell us. We'll verify it and we'll go out and post for it. I can help make graphics for anybody. The tech side I've got covered. I can help anybody with that. But I just want it. I want it to be a place that people can share information and get help.
So you see the group as the Citizens of Bethel Park as being a group networking where you go and connect with other people. That's really the connection, because I know during the flood I drove by a house. It could have been only 1 or 2 days after the flood, and there must have been 25 or 30 trucks lined up outside this house and around the corner. And I asked my daughter when I got home, I said, what's with all the trucks? She said, you know what? They're all contractors that came from the Citizens of Bethel Park group that networked, found out those in need. They're all organized. They're inside the house. I said, I didn't see anybody outside. They're all parked there. She said, no, they're contractors inside working on that house, and they're going from house to house, all as a response to your group.
And that
would not have happened without that group.
If the group didn't exist, I don't know how these people would have hooked up with each other. I would hope that there was some way, but I'm glad that it was there as a swift way for people to connect. I can say at one point we had a list of all the people that were affected, that had been reporting into the municipality. And we had a really dark day court, so it was really a team of 4 women, 2 mothers, a lacrosse coach, and a grandmother that were organizing all of this. And we had this list of all the people, and we were dealing about 50 to 70 houses that we knew of and were sending meals out to and checking on and calling again. And I have a lot of people to visit while I'm here. A lot of people I just want to give a hug to, see how they're doing, because a lot of people still, we had to call them 3 or 4 times before they would accept help. And even now they say they're fine, and I still worry, did they really get all the mold? Is everything? I just want to kind of, I couldn't be here, so now this is my chance to go in and give them a cuddle and say hi. But it was something that happened that once the waters receded, how would you know who needed help unless you checked on your neighbors? So we had this big list, and we had a dark day where we realized we did not have enough time to go back and call through this list, and we had to rely on the municipality when they did their assessments to let us know if somebody needed extra help, which they did. They were wonderful in kind of giving us that responsibility, but also helping us. And we would report back when something was too big and we needed to get extra services involved with, like Department of Aging or counseling services, or because we found some tough homes where there were tough situations going on there, or they were alone and didn't have the resources for help. And so it became a much bigger thing than we ever planned. And all we could do was post and say with this big list, and we realized we didn't have enough time to call every number, is to say, can you please check on your neighbor? Can you please check on your neighbor? Just walk your street. If you haven't seen somebody come out, if you haven't seen them drying out their stuff in the front lawn, and you know everyone else got hit, please just knock on their door, make sure they're okay. And I just talked to a woman last night who did that.
Really?
And she was able to help report that through so that person could get help because she saw that post, she saw that call. We called out for churches. Suddenly churches got really involved, and now I think Sydney's working with some of the churches on making a coalition.
Okay.
That's what Bridgeville does. So Bridgeville gets flooded quite a bit. And so Sid called them, said, what do you do? And they have actually a coalition of 4 churches. One takes care of all the meals, one takes care of cleanup, one will house people. I forget exactly what it is, but we got so many ideas from them that we hope to implement in the future, because we didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
But the fact that the neighbors helped the neighbors was everything. Was everything. We just were the platform for them to reach out to each other.
Thank goodness.
I'm glad it was there. I'm really glad it was there. It was nothing I ever imagined for the group, and I'm so thankful. And I'm so thankful for everyone I met and all that I saw, and the humanitarian. It just renews your faith in people and this town, and being so proud of where I'm from. That's the best blessing that's come out of all of it.
Well, we appreciate all that you did and that you started this group more than you know, and we want to express our thanks to that. But everyone, join into the Citizens of Bethel Park Facebook group, and thank you so much, Lauren, for everything that you do.
Thank you for having me, Jack.